Dark in the city and the night is a wire. Steam in the subway and the earth is on fire. Oh yeah. Woman, you want me, so give me a sign. I'll catch my breath, I'm even closer behind. Oh yeah, alright. Well, in touch with the ground, I'm on a hunt, I'm after you. I smell like a sound, I'm lost in the crowd, and I'm hungry like the wolf. The sound of the lion is discordant and rhyme. Howling all right, I'm after you. My mouth is alive with juices like wine, and I'm hungry like the wolf. Stalked in the forest and it's too close to hide. I'll be upon you on the moon. Right side, oh yeah. High blood drumming on your skin, it's so tight. I feel my heat in just a moment. In touch with the ground, I'm on a hunt, I'm after you. I smell like a sound, I'm lost in the crowd, and I'm hungry like the wolf. The sound of the lion is discordant and rhyme. Howling all right, I'm after you. My mouth is alive with juices like wine, and I'm hungry like the wolf. Ooh, so hungry.
Hungry like the wolf.
I'm hungry.
Like the wolf.
Can't you believe how hungry I am?
Hungry like the wolf.
Give it to me in my mouth.
Hungry like the wolf.
Sha-la-lo-lo-lo. Hey, 1, 2, 3, 4. In touch with the ground, I'm on a hunt, I'm after you. I smell like a sound, I'm lost and I'm found, and I'm hungry like the wolf. I strut on the line, it's discordant and rhyme. I'm howling all right, I'm after you. My mouth is alive with juices like wine, and I'm hungry like the wolf. I'm burning the ground, I'm quick from the crowd. I'm on a hunt, I'm after you. I smell like a sound, I'm lost and I'm found, and I'm hungry like the wolf. Strut on the line, it's discordant and rhyme. I'm howling all right, I'm after you. My mouth is alive, all running inside, and I'm hungry like the wolf. I'm hungry like the wolf. Lord, I'm hungry, hungry like the wolf. Ooh, I'm hungry, baby.
One, and we're live, and I can actually take the music out of my ear. There we go. How's it going, Cory?
It's going good. It's been a busy day full of things non-Digimon and Pokemon related. So I am thrilled to just get all of that out of my brain and get all this open space and fill it with Poke and Digi nonsense, because tonight it is the Digipod Pokécast show. Almost forgot the name of our show.
Yeah.
As I was saying, you know what I always want to do, and maybe you can relate to this. I always want to put the Poke first for some reason. I just want to swap it around, even though I know on paper,
Yeah.
Digipod Pokécast show, that's the golden winner right
So-
there. That's perfect name.
I might be giving myself too much credit, but I think when I pitched the name, that was like intentional, because you want to say Poképod, like
Yeah.
that's the iteration.
Poképod,
But that's not it. It's Digipod Pokécast. You know, and plus, if I'm making the design, I've got to put your part first. You know, that's
Oh yeah.
because I'm such.
This is totally, like, we're on a tangent here, but I completely relate to that, because as someone who has pretty much almost exclusively been involved with shows I produce with someone else.
Yeah,
like I'm always like co-hosting stuff. Like, that's what I prefer. Like, I like, working with another person. But to that point, I absolutely do the same thing, where it's just I go out of my way to make it as much, not so much about that other person, but any kind of representation of their ideas or anything, I'm like, no, you should do that. Like,
Yeah.
just because I have this like fear of not even how I'm perceived by others, but like how I'm perceived by myself of like, is this too much of the Cory show? Like, and I don't want it to be the Cory show, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm always making efforts to like, oh, whatever your idea, let's do that.
I get that totally, and I've been there. I have worked on it a little bit, because I try to think like, okay, maybe thematically sometimes it should be around, like in all of our promos I put Cory, Behringer, and Milk Surface, which just like unbiased I think is better because you have a human name and I have a silly internet name. So when you read that promo, you're like, oh, a person hosts this show and some type of imaginary thing. And then like Nymphomercial, we start off the show like, hi, I'm Milk, and then it goes down. But that was just a matter of like syllables with original co-hosts. It just sounded better for me to start. But yeah, no, I'm always like worried, like, am I doing too much? Especially last episode of this show, because it was all about my opinions on Pokemon people.
I was all about it because I feel like it's more interesting to talk about because for those of you who didn't tune in last week, and by the way, fuck you, we were talking about the humans, like the people of both of these franchises, Digimon and Pokemon, if you didn't catch that. That's what we talk about on the show. We discuss the various differences and similarities of these two incredible franchises, and just basically have a silly time about it. But last episode, we were talking about the human component of those franchises.
They matter
and,
a little.
Yeah. And I feel like Pokemon just has so much more to talk about because as we got into in the last episode, the Digimon humans were, with the exception of the kids, they were very much just plot devices to move everything else around. Like they didn't really write towards adults with much purpose.
I didn't say it
so that's why I was fine taking a backseat to that, because you gave me so much to riff on. So yeah.
I didn't say it in the episode, but just one last thing on that.
Oh yeah.
Pokemon don't make good characters because they don't talk.
Yeah, exactly.
Digimon make great characters and more interesting characters because they're monsters. So of course the people are like plot devices to the Digimon. To whereas in Pokemon, you can't. It's hard to write a good Pokemon.
Totally. Yeah, because I mean, if you were to have a Pokemon show that is almost no humans, it's going to be a silent show. Like it's going to have to be all through action and no dialogue. And that's, I don't know, little dull. I think it can be impressive when it is done.
There's shorts that do it really well, but not a series.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So it's a little different. But we're talking about something completely different than that this time around. Although maybe not so different, because we're still talking about the evils of humanity. What we're talking about.
Yeah.
So you had an idea. Well, springboarding kind of off of the first idea for this episode, because last time around we were like, oh, next time we're gonna do villains. Yeah. Clearly that's what we're going to do. So then I checked in with you today. I was like, we still doing that? And then you said, no.
Absolutely not. No, I recorded a different podcast earlier today. And then at the end of that, I just asked them. I was like, hey, out of a Pokemon Digimon comparison show, what do you think would be an interesting thing to hear about? And to my surprise, one wasn't into either franchise. And I was like, well, I'm deleting you from my life. I think they are late 20s. I don't know. They were the guest of the episode.
I will honestly say that even that old, I start to give a pass of just like, maybe this is just, because it's such a generational thing. And I feel
especially Digimon.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. If you miss the boat on that one, you kind of just missed the boat, unfortunately. Like, if you try to jump into that now, like, completely fresh, you're probably just going to not like it. And that's okay,
You have to be a Pokemon or okay, for the grace of younger kids, yokai. If you're into yokai, watch. You'll probably stumble into Digimon and like it, but yeah, you missed the boat if you're just trying to get into it, you know.
Yeah. So your friend had this suggestion.
So he had this suggestion. Didn't know about the antagonist like idea we had for today, but he threw this out, and I'm really stalling. What I liked about it is up until now we've talked about aspects of the series, you know, very like grounded in things we can reference and look back to in our memories or a quick Google search. Things that are notable things to compare about apples and oranges and such. But this was like just a hypothetical, like the two of you should talk about this and go about it. I say up until now, we did do the one where we created stuff, but that's also kind of like based off what we've learned from fandom creation and stuff since we weren't in that. So this is going to be a little bit riffing based, I guess. And so the
you know, as opposed to the very studiously researched and carefully rehearsed previous episodes of the Digipod Pokécast show, this one's just going to be really just cutting loose.
I'm not even wearing my suit and tie today.
I know.
But the idea was, if Pokemon or Digimon were real, how would the U.S. military exploit them? And I was like a little more vague to just like how would they be wrongly used in society? Because I think it's funny to think about, but also you can get very serious about this conversation because. You know, Digimon are very real in the sense of like data and how important that is and how just data corruption is big. And then Pokemon aren't real, but to a degree, there's a very easily understandable scale of power of what they can do. You know, the actual Pokemon games sometimes fuck with that where they'll throw out a number and you're like, no, that can't be true. You're like, if that's true, the world would be destroyed. But for the most part, you can kind of like measure stuff and be like, this is how strong this thing is. Cory, you ever see where people like take a video game character and they're like, okay, Kirby was able to suck a train in going at full speed. So here's algebra. We know how strong Kirby's suck is. You ever see that?
I haven't. I'm familiar with that as a thing. Like I haven't come across it exactly. But I've always felt that if I did see one of those, I would accept it blindly. Like, it's just like, yeah, that checks out. Like, I'm gonna like prove the math. Like, they could have any information on that meme, and I would just like it depends on the source. If it comes from a reputable, Twitter account, I'm probably gonna be like, all right, yeah, that's very interesting.
I mean, even a YouTube video with editing skills, you can be like, well,
yes, oh, absolutely. If the audio of the narrator is clear, then I am so much more likely to believe everything they tell me. If it doesn't sound like they're just like in their bathroom because they have good acoustics, like it's just bad.
I was gonna make a fun little joke saying, good graphic design can get you so far in a lie. I was like, oh, that's propaganda imagery. That's existed forever and very true.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yes. But yeah, I love that idea. I love when you can get a little too serious about some of this. Don't know if that's where we'll go with it today, because I don't know math. I don't know if Cory's a physiologist over here or anything.
He's not.
So, but we can go in and out of degrees. Chat, if you're there, would love to hear your opinions on all of this. And if you're like, well, I'm not in chat, but I'm watching the VOD, because this is all saved on YouTube, put comments. I'm sure eventually I'll know about it. Or Stab social media. If we get enough engagement with various Stab social media, we'll just make our own. There's Instagram, Twitter, maybe some of the new fuckery things that are being born out of anti-Muskness. And
the
Discord.
Digipod Pokécast show thread.
Yeah.
I'm gonna resist as long as I can. I don't have the capacity for a new thing that probably won't work. So I'm gonna wait till everyone's there. I am gonna be with whatever we all land on, and hopefully it's just they figure out Twitter. But I'm gonna wait.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it now. I'm gonna wait because I'm not a bold person. I'm not someone who is going to be uh, blazing any trail. That's not the kind of blazer I am. Is a
I
blazer of trails.
I make an account on any social media I just hear
Yeah.
about.
Yeah, just in case.
Yeah, just to hold my namesake, just to have
That
it.
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Increase SEO. Not that I'm like super relevant online. I'm not a micro celeb, but I don't know if I'd say like I care about that so much as I think it's just kind of cool. Like social
I get
media
that.
sites sometimes. I hate threads though, and this will sound like gibberish. I could make this word up. It being part of the Fediverse in the future just seems so obnoxious.
What is that abbreviated? Fediverse. What is that?
Oh, I don't know what it abbreviates to. But
Because I just don't know what that means at all. Fediverse. Like, can you explain this to me, please?
okay, well, so this is something I've watched an hour and a half long video roughly explaining this, and then this is me
So you're an expert.
summarizing
All right.
even that. Fediverse is a series of different programs, not just social media, that use the same language, so you could actually build things together and up on each other, and it's all open source. And the Fediverse isn't something you just make an account on, but you can create a presence in the Fediverse, and it depends on where you do that. It's kind of like Burning Man. Like, you can go set up your camp in a big camp, and you can still go to the other camps, but you have your home camp somewhere. And if you really wanted to, you can drag your home camp somewhere else, even though it's kind of clunky. And anyone can start making new camps and be different things, but if one camp really sucks, the community can be like, let's not go to them, even though there isn't like a modding thing that can get rid of it. You can kind of like socially ban it. And that's the Fediverse, baby. Just digital.
All right.
All
right.
Going to be
I guess
honest,
I follow.
a little too above my head when it comes to the best way to make a spot. And so when I found out Instagram Threads is going to be incorporated into that eventually, I was like, this is either going to be done in such a soft way people don't even notice unless they're really into it, or everyone's going to be confused. So we'll see.
But Digimon.
Yes, Digimon. We're just talking about social media and the ways it can go awry. So actually,
Which
Digimon,
I
let's
think
talk.
is definitely tied into that. Like,
Yeah.
because it feels like propaganda would be a good place to start this conversation, because that would probably be the most accessible to a American's perception of how the military was using it.
Yeah.
Like if we are having this conversation with the assumption that Pokemon and Digimon exist, right, that's already out of the way. We won't know, I think, about the government using them as weapons
Yeah.
for a very long time. I feel like they would keep that shit under wraps. What they wouldn't keep under wraps is using Pokemon or Digimon as propaganda tools for recruitment. Like, I'm sure that they would be involved in any kind of ads and just recruitment, media.
I slightly disagree. Pokemon, yes. Digimon, kind of. Because think about it. You can get a Digimon to go and actually learn everything about a person in a way an AI can't, and propaganda them. And so they wouldn't want people to know they're like forcing little Digimon to do that. You shouldn't know that Agumon's looked at every Instagram post you've had and, is using actual digital, construction paper to make a little graphic that, propagands you into doing something.
Yeah.
So, although, quick, maybe subversion or like shift of our topic today, I think military or people using Pokemon bad is interesting. I think with Digimon, it's just more interesting to think of like how would a modern bad guy Digimon utilize its digital powers in today. No human body necessary. Like I can only think of Paimon when I'm trying to think of a real digital villain, because Devamon just power hungry in the digital world, if I remember correctly. And then Myotismon just kind of like realized there was more to it than that. But like Paimon and the rest of them, like they schemed. And like, I don't know, do you have any ideas of like terrible stuff an evil Digimon could do nowadays, especially considering this whole Twitter shift thing nowadays?
Well, I definitely feel like just with social media as it is, as a force in our culture, that would be exploited by an evil Digimon. With either just very advanced like catfishing, like essentially like what would come down to is that, or you know, fraud of some sort, using other accounts and like manipulation of like the data and everything. But I could also see a evil Digimon basically just being the like the CEO of a social media company. But we don't know he's a Digimon. That's the thing. He would just be, you know, the I keep wanting to say figurehead, but no, if he was the actual, like, maybe we think he's the figurehead, like, you know, we assume that he's just, you know, another Mark Zuckerberg type, but he's actually so much more evil than Mark Zuckerberg even is. You know, which is very evil. So I would imagine they would really capitalize off of social media.
For sure. Another thing I can imagine is, this is going to date this episode. It's July 2023. VTubers, they're a big thing, but right now there's only one VTuber with like really good equipment where her full body is articulated. She can like part her hair, and that happens. Can't even recall her name, but big VTuber. I think a YouTube exclusive. So all it takes is one Digimon just being a little clunky than they are, you know, like kind of messing up a little bit, and they would be a perfectly believable, most advanced VTuber, and they just instantly grow a huge following. To be manipulated and exploited. It's ripe for the pickings. What do you think the Pokemon ramifications would be? Well, let's okay, I'll try to stay in the same vein then. So social media, I mean, it's pretty easy to equate Pokemon to pets. And you know, pets are very popular in social media to gain following and stuff. Although I feel like it's more ethical to, not ethical, but it would be easier to excuse a soldier having a Pokemon out in whatever country they're destroying, compared to just having like a cat. So, you know, like army social medias could easily just be like showing them with their Pokemon and how chill it is, and you know how humane it is out there and stuff.
Normalizing.
You don't see you know, Steve Smith's Arcanine just melting faces of a bunch of people. You just see them playing fetch in a, you know, environment that you're like, that's not America.
That actually brings a question to me, that I think is relevant to this entire conversation, but I honestly don't know the answer to.
I think I know.
And maybe this may have been answered to Pokemon before. Can Pokemon kill people?
Oh, yes.
Like willingly? Like they can like. Okay.
Yeah.
How do you know this? Like, what is the context of that you have that confident yes?
Mewtwo kills people at the start of the first movie.
Oh, he does.
Yeah. He straight up kills all those
forgot
people.
people die in that.
Mm-hmm. Pokemon as a children's media is very good at not showing it, but as a world building franchise, they very much make it known. But both in games and in media, in movies and stuff. Cory, how familiar are you with Pokédex entries?
I mean, as much as a kid raised on Pokemon, would know about Pokedex. But I mean,
how familiar are you with ghost type ones?
None.
Okay.
None familiar.
All right. We're going to play a fun little game here. Among ghosts.
So I'm assuming there's something different about how ghost types are entered in a Pokedex?
Yes. It's not like an inherent difference. It's just, Cory, if something was evil, would it be a bug or a ghost if you had to choose between two?
I would choose bug because I feel like it's more poetic.
I
Because
think
I'm thinking
that
of
example
evil
because
as in
that's
like
good. But yeah,
Lord of Flies. I'm thinking, ideas of the devil. Like they're often paired with bugs and hell.
yeah, that's clever. Pokemon's not that clever. Pokemon has ghost type, and then they also have dark type. But ghost type entries, pretty bad. Let's look at Drifloon. It's basically a balloon. Balloon has a little cloud on its head, a little X in the front of its face, and it's got two little dangly arms with hearts at the end. Stories go that it grabs the hands of small children and drags them away to the afterlife. It dislikes heavy children.
Wait a minute. Did you say it dislikes heavy children?
Yes.
Did you make that part up?
No, I would never make just that up. That's actually part of it.
Okay.
I kind of read it before processing. Yeah, it's a little body shamey, but
but also kind of endearing because like it's a job to them. They don't not like the heavy kids because they don't like heavy kids. They don't like it because it's harder to do their job.
And they didn't just throw this in there for nothing in the sense that like this is a balloon, So and heavy doesn't mean any particular body type. That this could be a well-toned, muscly kid, No Drifloon's going to want to take a boxing kid to the afterlife. But yeah, so you read that and you go, okay, so like the spirit of kids, it gets taken away. And some people go, I don't know if it's spirits. And you're like, and then you get things like Hone Edge.
Yeah.
If anyone dares to grab its hilt, it wraps a blue cloth around the person's arm and drains that person's life energy completely.
Murder on the spot?
Yes.
Like, no warning, no rattle.
Mm-hmm. And you think...
just murder. Straight to murder.
Wow, that's dark that they just like... do stuff and make people dead. Oh, it gets worse. It doesn't stop at death. Let's go to Yan Mask. Each of them carries a mask that used to be its face when it was human. Sometimes they look at it and cry.
I hate that. I hate that so much. Oh my god.
So Pokédex entries vary game to game, and games usually come in two versions. So they'll usually same Pokemon has two slightly different ones. But I mentioned this because if you take all 8 generations, 9 generations, and you get every Pokédex entry for a Pokemon, there's little bits of extra information in various ones, but it's a lot of the same. Yamask has some that continue on to say that when they look at that face and cry, they actually don't know why, because they don't have memories of their human life. Yeah. Yeah.
Jeez.
Fun, right?
Oh my god.
And the thing is like, not all ghost Pokemon are actually ghosts. They're not all ghosts of humans. Some Pokemon that are ghost type, like Jellicent, the water ghost jellyfish, is only a ghost type because of its properties of being able to, like, go through things in a sense.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sure.
So because of that, a lot of times with a ghost Pokemon, you're like, is this a dead human? Is this a dead Pokemon? Or is this just, affiliated with the similarities of ghosts or affiliated with the afterlife? There is a Grim Reaper Pokemon. It's not the spirit of anything, but it does carry souls to the afterlife a little bit more predominantly than Drifloon.
Is this a Pokemon that you can just catch, or
Yeah.
is this one of like
Yeah.
a legendary thing? And again, this is where it's odd to me that you can catch a Pokemon that also serves a purpose in the world, like carries souls.
Actually, I want to correct that. So, the Pokemon I'm talking about is Dusk Noir, and you can catch the first stage and evolve it pretty easily. And the evolution's even out in the wild. It's very rare to see the full evolved form, which is like the full carrier of souls, out in the wild. It's not like they just exist all the time. There is a game where you can catch one, but it's like pretty secluded to an area, so it does give that impression of like, oh, this is something important and magical. Not a legendary, but like not just your everyday little mouse that can, spit icicles.
See, I like that more. Like, I like that it has a little exclusivity to it.
Yeah.
I feel like it just helps the story more if there aren't just a million of them.
Yeah. I mean, Drifloom's
Out and about.
pretty common, and that's the one that like carries kids, but like I think that like range, like the one that's really dedicated, it's like life to helping souls pass over. It makes sense that it's rare. You don't find them a lot in nature. You can raise one up to evolve to that, but like that's your effort, to whereas one in nature's probably not going to cross your path because it's doing work, baby.
He's busy.
Yeah. But yeah, so Pokemon can kill people, can become Pokemon, and all sorts of stuff. I think one of the Dex entries for Gengar says once it's like put its sights on a person, it will follow them, making them feel increasingly worse until they're dead.
I fucking love Gengar.
That's
so
yeah.
cool.
Have you seen
What a great
Gigantamax
Pokemon.
Gengar?
Gigantamax?
Mm-hmm.
No. Is it just giant?
No, that's
Okay.
Dynamax, which I think they mixed the words up. You'd think Dynamax means a dynamic form of the giant one, but the Gigantamax Gengar, picture a Gengar, okay?
I'm doing it.
Yeah, and now use your crop tool to get rid of the bottom half,
Okay.
and then open its mouth real wide, and that's it, but giant. So Gigantamax Gengar is just the top of its head and its mouth open, and it is an actual gate to the underworld. And
Holy
then,
shit, that's cool.
just to make it silly, its arms are kind of popping up on the side of the ground next to him.
At the risk of sounding just as white as I am, it like what I'm picturing anyway is giving me a little bit of a sense of like My Neighbor Totoro, kind of.
Oh,
like
yeah.
or sort of Miyazaki sort of Studio Ghibli feel of like the big mouth and I don't know, and then Portal to the Underworld, that kind of seals it as well for me.
Yeah, it's definitely a scary Totoro. Yeah, I could always go on about Ghost Pokemon. They're not my favorite, but I love them. The lore, the Dex entries for them, they seem really thought out. And I'm a person that when somebody says something, I like fact check it in my head, and then part of me before I say anything goes, it doesn't matter. But one of those things that really happens a lot is when people talk about ghost Pokemon and they're like, oh, the ghost of this person is this. I'm like, no, it's not that kind.
Yeah. It's a little different.
Yeah, it's like, well, in the mythos, and there's this and that. And then some can be both. I think Gengar, not even just dependent on the canon, whether game or movie or something. I think Gengars have been known to be either Pokemon or people. So, yeah. One of my favorites is a toy that got abandoned, and then Essentially, that like resentment manifests a spirit and it becomes a Pokemon.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah,
I love any kind of um, origin of a unpleasant existence. Like, as far as like any kind of um, well, mostly ghost stories, but like any monster that has a specific origin, I'm
yeah.
into that. That's cool.
Like,
Any kind of like old school, like, yeah.
as cool as that is, now think of it with Pokemon. That's how that Pokemon came to be. They can be your friend. You can go to bed every night with that Pokemon chilling on a pillow, earnestly loving you. And like you can have kids and it's growing up old with you and it even like plays with your kids in a loving, non-dangerous way. Like, that's one of the things I love about Pokemon compared to any other monster media is that um, pretty much any of them can become a friend. As corny as that sounds, because like it's just so cool. I love seeing like Pokemon will sometimes like make side animations or make cards that tell a story like this, but it's so cool to see everyday people, not Pokemon trainers, just everyday people who have Pokemon and how it impacts their life. And they often are from like children growing up. There's a lot of Pokemon cards that will show the first stage of a Pokemon and a child all the way up to an adult with kids and that Pokemon as a full adult. I'm like, that's so heartwarming.
That's great.
Yeah.
I love that.
And Ghost Pokemon can do it.
Yeah. I feel like I would be remiss not to express one thought I had as you were telling me that very sweet description of, just the beauty that is a Pokemon and like, that bond that you can have with a Pokemon, if this all were real. But don't you think that would also leave open the very real possibility of like having to put down your Growlithe because it bit your kid? Like that would probably also happen.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, that's a real thing we suffer with today with like dogs
exactly.
and stuff,
but wouldn't it be even worse if your dog had fire powers?
Right? You'd
like
have to go get a kerosene tank for winters.
Yeah.
And Pokemon do die in the Pokemon series. The first game had a graveyard for Pokemon, and in the show, there was a Pokemon that wrapped its body around a kid during a storm, and it froze to death. And I cried so hard at that like scene and story. Because like it kept this kid warm throughout the night, giving its own life. And I'm just like, how can you do this? And it's a Pokemon that everyone's used if they're a big Pokemon fan, which is like another spit in the face.
All have an experience with it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. Not many Pokemon you can be like, oh, everyone's used this. But this was one of the ones you can, because it came out in Gen 4, which everyone was stuck with the same ones, and of course everyone picked the cool lightning lion dog thing. So someone at a studio was like, what if we kill it? And everyone's like, you're a monster. Yes, let's do that.
Yeah.
Because they don't do it a lot, which is what makes it so much more impactful. Yeah. So I don't mind
away from propaganda.
Yeah.
Like, what would be some like real world implications of? Well, that's not real world, but like how do you feel like the military would actually use a Pokemon in like warfare?
Yeah, so I'm going to exclude the like world breaking Pokemon. Because like I said, sometimes the Pokedex has things that are just unbelievable, and the series has kind of started giving us an idea that it's like, well, the Pokedex isn't 100% accurate because scientists are making it, and scientists aren't 100% accurate. So we're going to go with that and assume Gardevoir can't just make a fucking black hole on the battlefield. So lots of different ways they can utilize Pokemon. But I think a big thing would, for one, you would have like one trainer to one Pokemon. That makes the most sense. It's one-to-one food. Don't have to worry about team and stuff. One person, one specialist to a Pokemon, you know? Definitely just like out in the battlefield. They could do something like transportation and stuff, but I definitely see just like soldiers with strong elemental animals. It's just, there are so many possibilities. It's hard to give like just one solid answer. I mean, Psychic are going to probably be one of the top ones you want to use. Psychic, Dragon, Fairy, you know. You could do Ghost because of stealthy stuff, you know. Just send them over. Like, they ain't going to know. Yeah. And, yeah, I mean, a Pokemon is a fully evolved Pokemon is stronger than any like Earth weapon we have that's held by one person, I would say. You know, we would still use things like the Atobomb. We don't need Pokemon for that.
Well, you know, I have a thought here.
Okay.
So not to, you know, just jump right in and start telling you how wrong you are.
No, I want you to.
Well, no, like, how is the accuracy of, like, if we're talking about elemental Pokemon, it seems like the moves that they would have wouldn't be able to be concentrated to the same precision that a rifle, for instance, would be able to be, you know, used for. Like, as far as, like, tactical, like, we are taking people out, you know, wouldn't a gun probably be more effective than you know, Gust?
There is a move called Bullet Seed, so I think that kind of answers your question.
Okay.
Yeah. No, that I mean, there are wide ranges of stuff, and so there are very like precise things. I'm trying to think if there's like any Pokemon in particular that is just like a sniper-esque Pokemon, and nothing's coming to mind that like really has that motif. Oh yes, Inteleon. They made a James Bond Pokemon because they were like they made British Pokemon, and so they made James Bond. Corey, he uses fucking finger guns as a gun.
That's amazing. Jesus.
And then when he Gigantamaxes.
Does he also coerce women to bed?
Yeah. He has a large egg group, as they say.
Yeah.
His Gigantamax form, his tail becomes so giant it like builds him a little tower with a loft on the top, like it because it's a chameleon.
Okay.
Well, it starts as a chameleon and it becomes a little bit more.
Did they basically just rip off Gex? Do you remember Gex?
Yeah. No, it's very Gexy. I love Gex.
It sounds like you're just describing Gex.
Yeah, it's like if Gex was trying to be cool. Because the thing is like they always made Gex like want to be cool, but he wasn't in his own canon. But we thought he was cool.
Gex is a comic. That's Dana Gould. He's being funny.
Yeah. He's a stand-up comedian that just gets so much shit thrown at him. You know.
Yeah.
It's sad too. He wasn't even using his talents. He was just watching TV. He could be out there getting his own Comedy Central special. One day we'll do the Gex podcast. But yeah, so this thing gets a big tail, makes a loft, and like actually snipers up off the loft. So, yeah.
But I'm sure it will make sense when I see the picture of it.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, even now, like I won't be able to see it till we're done with the show. But send me a picture of this Pokemon so I can see this, and the Gigamax version or whatever that was.
Okay, Dad.
I want to see this tail loft.
Yeah. You know what? Let's just. Yeah. It's something. I'll send it to you after the show. But
I had a question. I had a
yes.
question about because we were talking about moves that are comparable to just what we know as, you know, murderous weaponry.
Yeah.
But what is the sort of trying to find the word here. Basically, the refractory period for the Pokemon, like they aren't just able to just blow that whole time. Like they can't just keep doing what they do. Do you get what I'm saying here?
Yeah.
Like, wouldn't they have to have like a rest moment where they have to? All right, I gotta load it back up.
No, not too badly.
Really?
Pokemon. So in the games, you have what's called PP power points, and that's
Yes.
how much you can use a move. And that idea does carry over to canon, but they really can just fire them off a lot, essentially. Like if you look at two Pokemon battling each other, I would say, the show condenses it down, but a real world Pokemon battle would probably be about half an hour, with like a good chunk of that time being elemental like attacks. Maybe not the same one, and maybe some defensive ones, which are easier. But yeah, a lot of just like consistent use, just going.
Yeah.
So yeah, typically in Pokemon games, the way attacks work is the things they balance are how much they can use them, so power points, the actual damage it does, the attack damage, and then its accuracy is big on that. But you're measuring the accuracy of two Pokemon in an arena or nearby on like a roadside to battle each other as trainers in war. In the heat of war, the accuracy would be different, but there's a move called Swift, and it can't miss. It shoots stars. So yeah, like in war, it'd just be like any Pokemon they want. They might get elements like fire, electricity. They might get more tactical things like Pokemon that have sleeping powders, or Pokemon that can just destroy your soul.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of these uses are more for like covert operations
I think that'd be
rather
the better
than
way.
frontline.
Yeah.
I'm still having a hard time picturing Pokemon on the front line because it feels like that would just be, I don't know, almost showing off.
Yeah,
Like,
it would be
it's like
anarchy.
Like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Like imagine giving every pawn on a chessboard a flamethrower and then just pushing them all forward at the same time. Like you could do that. There's no reason you couldn't make a wall of fire with non-legendary Pokemon. Like
But it's funny. Oh, sorry. Go on.
Just last thing. It's like imagine if the U.S. Army was like, "Hey, do you have a dog that you've owned for 5+ years? Come become our murder machine. It will work."
Yeah.
And
we will make this work.
And the thing is like you think, well, like other armies would have Pokemon too, but it's like Pokemon are so rock, paper, scissors in elements, and the Earth has a lot of different biomes. So now in the Pokemon world, all of the places based off real life phone in extra biomes. Hawaii doesn't have an ice island, but it sure does in the Pokemon world. So if it was our real world, war would be terribly one-sided because you could just take advantage of type advantage. The American economy could easily import Pokemon of whatever type they need to just real fuck up some other place. But if it was real world Pokemon biomes, then it would be a little bit more balanced out. But yeah, sorry, go to the idea you had.
Oh, sorry. Well, I was just going to point out, like, off the heels of that, it would make complete sense to me if the U.S. government were to put Digimon on the front line, because I feel like the ones that they would have the best chance at persuading to work for them.
Oh, yeah, you have to convince them.
Because you'd have to convince them, exactly. It would be like dumb Digimon. Like, it wouldn't be any like highbrow, basically it wouldn't be any Digimon that would help us progress as a society.
Yeah.
It would only be Digimon that would help us destroy. I'm thinking Tankmon.
Yeah.
It would be a horde of Tankmon,
So Pokemon typically don't inherently like destruction. Some Digimon do, for sure. Some Digimon just want to wreck shit up. So like All you have to do is like throw a USB drive, and like now there's a Tankmon, and it's just wrecking havoc. I'm assuming Tankmon's just wants to destroy Digimon.
I don't know a whole lot about the personality because I don't really have much experience in the show with what Tankmon's like. Mostly I've just played Tankmon.
I mean, but also they're all individuals, you know.
They're all individuals, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think some Digimon tend to be a little more hive-minded that way. Like if they are a very dumb Digimon, like Chromatamon or like he's the dinosaur that's he's black and white and red.
Monochromon.
Monochromon. Thank you. Monochromon.
He almost was my end of the show pick, but wasn't.
Oh yeah. Well, I think that he would be an example of someone that they would be able to recruit a army of, because those are very dumb Digimon. Like Canon in the show are very, just very, they speak in very simple sentences, and that's who they can get, which also creates a real bit of chaos here, because if the U.S. government could do this, so could any other government, and I feel like, due to the nature of how little it would take to convince a Digimon, if they all just had access to the digital world, we would probably just be in a nuclear holocaust by now.
And America does not have the world's #1 tech or internet. Like, countries beat us when it comes to internet infrastructure. People are always so surprised by that, but like, America is so far behind when it comes to the internet infrastructure, meaning we would lose the Digimon war. I think if it was America as we know it now, political, economic, binome, climate, if Pokemon were real, it would be a real nightmare on the rest of the planet. Because I will say, one of the weakest Pokemon types are ice types. And there's a big icy climate area. Out of all of the, I'm not going to name drop, but places we might go to war with, if they have a bunch of ice types, we don't have to worry too much. But yeah, so Pokemon World, we'd be dominating. Not a fan of, but it's true. Digimon World, we would lose easily. We wouldn't be the first one to go. But also, I feel like in a Digimon war, you wouldn't be fighting for land right off the bat, because the war happens anywhere spontaneously. You just need a device. So I imagine like the powers that are fighting wouldn't even bother with trying to like get allies of smaller places. It would just be straight to the point. America and its enemies just popping Digimon up where they be. And with today's sponsor NordVPN, you can route your enemies. Can you imagine a VPN just like using that, so like people think they're attacking the White House, and instead Tankmon ends up in Colorado in the middle of a field?
These are real world implications.
Digimon's so fun to think of because there's just so many routes it can take, truly. Like Pokemon's a little obvious. It's like, oh, a monster does monster things. I think the interesting stuff about it is the nuances of like how, why, who would have powers. But Digimon, you can just take so many routes. It's like, can you just spawn a Digimon out of a Scream? A lot of the canons do that. And then again, like the actual data behind it. And they're all Digisold, I honestly think the U.S. government would try to convince stronger Digimon to be on our side, and those Digimon will be like, no, but thanks for the idea, and I'm a bad guy now.
And I think the scariest step in all of this, regardless of what nation does it, it's whatever nation gets into the digital world first.
They're
fucked. They're fucked because they've now opened themselves up to whatever evil is in there and has wanted to get into our world. Now you let them in. That's what would happen, basically. We all lose if I think anyone goes to the digital world, except for the Digidestined.
Yes.
That is
Um,
what it all comes down to.
oh, dude, I didn't even think about like how. So in Pokemon, there's no like Destiny kids, you know. But in
Yeah.
our Digimon scenario, there would be Digidestins too, I imagine. So it's
Yeah.
like, are these Digidestins being like, oh, I had to fight my own world's government with my pet lizard friend?
Yeah. And we kind of see that with the Tri films,
Yeah. Oh,
the
okay.
Digimon Tri, because that involves the Japanese government,
Okay.
and they're working with the Digidestined and stuff of just like, yeah, we need your help, because like we can't do it without you, basically. But
Yeah.
I think we talked about this on the show last
Oh,
time, but it was a very reluctant relationship
yeah.
from the government's perspective. Like, it wasn't all, this is great and we have these kids and they're going to help us. It was, this is extremely serious. God damn it, why are they kids? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's not fun, basically.
Yeah,
But yeah.
like you don't want to be a general and like after just winning a major battle, you're like brushing your brow and you're like, we almost lost it. Our country almost was ruined. And then like the person who saved you is doing a Fortnite dance, like
Yeah.
because that's what it would be. Not I'm not dissing kids at any by any means, but like that's what it is. Like kid of course is going to celebrate in a kid way for kicking monster ass. Meanwhile, you're an adult, like realizing the true implication here, and you're like, "This is the only way."
Yeah.
Little off topic. There's this tabletop RPG I've been writing for like a couple of years now,
Mhm.
and it involves like magical kids, magical girl kind of transformation, and that's like a big thing in it. Is like the dynamic that like only the kids have the power to deal with the threat, but the adults obviously are the ones who are powering infrastructure. I think that's such a cool dynamic. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I love when Digimon involves like adults to some capacity. So I really need to see the Try movies, I guess. But yeah, so let's see if you agree with my timeline here. America fucks around, finds out, gets to the Digi world. Bad things happen. It really ruins a lot of things. The Digidestins, probably not too well encouraged in America, but they at least have the means to like really act upon being a Digidestin. They problem solve a little bit. Then Digidestins from around the world really solve the problem. Meanwhile,
Yep.
as the problem is being solved, U.S. government and some other governments are exploring the actual applications of maybe not the strong Digimon they tried to handle or the strong Digimon the Digidestins have, but hey, those Monochromons sure seem easy enough to start cultivating.
Yep.
And then the war happens.
I have no notes. That is exactly how it would happen.
Yeah.
Like that is the series of events. And hopefully the modest army of international Digidestined would help us get out of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
At least it won't happen because none of this is real.
Yeah. Let's go to the more positive, like wrap up stuff of the show then.
Yes. Tell me. Actually, I'll start.
Okay.
Because I don't have a good one, but I'm going to tell
They're
you
all
about a
good.
Pokemon I like. And this is how ill prepared I am for this. I don't even remember the Pokemon's name.
That's okay. That's half the fun. I love
want to
guessing.
see him in the mix of it. Give me that Gex Pokemon.
Oh.
Give me the James Bond.
Yes.
That's my pick this week. I want that guy to live on our screen, at least for the season.
I'll give you the normal version and Gigantamax version after the show to pick from.
Okay. Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Inteleon. I have the stuffed.
Inteleon.
I have the stuffed animal of its first form, Sobble. I also made a comic of Sobble. I went like mini viral with it on Reddit.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's fun.
Yeah.
Send that to me too. I want to see that.
Okay, we'll do. But yeah, no, Inteleon's cool. I think you'll like him because it's dorky but like charming-ish.
Yeah.
The main complaint the Pokemon community had about it was we're kind of reaching this fever
Yeah, one of those.
We were getting to
Boiling point. You're
boiling
reaching a
point
boiling point.
of the starter Pokemon being too humanoid. So, they progressively got more and more human. People just didn't like that. They didn't want the starter Pokemon to be personas. And
Yeah, I get that.
yeah. They pushed it too hard in that generation. So, yeah, having a wet James Bond made a lot of people upset. But I think
wet James Bond.
I think looking back and not having it be what defines the current generation, I always find this true. I always think it's easier to appreciate a generation that's not current, especially the starters.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Every season of The Simpsons is the worst season, and the previous season is always, oh, well, that one's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's just, it's always in the rearview mirror. You can't really appreciate something when you're in it, I think.
Yeah.
As far as, pop culture anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, not about personal things. Definitely disagree when it comes to meals. But yeah, so it's just a little too humanoid. But looking back, I think it's an okay design. But yeah, fun. I'll send it.
Yeah.
I'll send
Tell
the
me
other
about
stars.
a Digimon you like.
Digimon I like. So going through the list, looking at them, and so growing up, I really liked Dermojimon. I think at one point it was called Digimon mistakenly in something, but it's
He's got the big drill on his face, right?
yeah, it's like a gopher, but there's just something about the way it's shaped that kind of makes it look like a furry bipedal narwhal, because it's got a pretty thin drill on its face, and then its fingers and toes are drills. And I really liked this Digimon growing up. They had it in Digimon World. I don't think you could have one. I don't think I ever got one.
But he was featured as a character.
Yeah.
Like early in the game. Like you have to deal with him. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I like him, but that's not who I'm picking. And I hope I pronounced this wrong, but my Digimon pick today is Nice Dermojimon, which there are only two nice Digimon. And nice, Nise, means fake in Japanese. And so this fake Dermojimon looks like Dermojimon, but has a curly French mustache and is like kind of purpley in tie-dye instead of just solid purple. And I love that. I love how Digimon can have qualifiers, on designs, but I love how some of those qualifiers are just truly the stupidest of things. And literally only two. And the thing is this one has the little French mustache. The other nice Digimon, I think, is like, it might not be nice Agumon, but it's an Agumon, but like way more design elements. Huh?
Are you talking about because there's, it's not nice, but it's, Agumon and Palmon both have variations because of an episode of the show where they get in disguise. But they're like in canon as that version of them. Because I think they also appear in some games like that. But it's like fake Agumon and fake Palmon, something like that. But they're wearing disguises, so like Agumon has a big afro.
Oh no, I know what you're talking about, but
yeah,
those are good.
Yeah.
So nice Agumon is a dark blue Agumon, has a graduation cap on. A black robe with like white lined panels and a fake tongue on the robe, and then holding like a bat wand. So like some type of evil judge valedictorian.
Yeah.
And I love it. They're like, okay, we need to make these two fake Digimon. One will have a complete overhaul of its design, and the other will have a mustache.
A silly mustache.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
So yeah, I figured I should. Last time I picked Cutemon because I just love how silly it is. I picked this one because it really is a Digimon. I really love the design, the shape language and everything about it really hits home for me. But then also it being the nice one, it kind of incorporates the silliness, and it's grown on me too more just because the mustache is funny.
Yeah. That's fantastic. No, I am a fan of that Digimon design as well. Like I probably because of the game, because it's just such a cool little spot early on.
Yeah.
With when you're in the mountainside, and yeah, so
It was also
love it.
nice, which is, you know, was a
Yeah.
huge break after going in that cave and others were, you know, you get in that
Yeah.
cave and Ogremon's
A
not
lot
like,
of Goblimon.
yeah, they weren't aggroing, but they were mean. And then this
Yeah.
Dirigimon or whatever it is was just nice, and you're like, you're a cool dude. Thanks.
Love it.
You know who else is a cool
Well-
dude?
Who's the cool dude?
You, Corey. Thanks. I've had so much fun on today's episode. Always
too.
so fun to do this.
Absolutely, I completely agree.
I-
I'm waiting with bated breath now. If
Yeah.
you couldn't tell what my breath is doing, it's baiting.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I see it. Baitful. No, you're messing with me.
That's me baiting.
oh, I see. Like a clickbait, but just my eyes. No click necessary. I did tease you with a potential tagline for the show.
Yeah. So let's just do it, and I won't even give you an opinion on the show of it. This time around, it's doing it.
Okay.
It's just gonna happen.
Yeah. Here, let's get
Sign
clean,
us off.
Clean cut. Hi, I've been Milk Surface,
I've been Cory Behringer.
and this is the Digipod Pokécast show, a show with new friends through old monsters.